I am Kim Tracy with the Maxwell James Speaker Agency in Denver, Colorado. Our intention is to connect phenomenal speakers with annual trade shows, conferences, business symposiums, as well as corporate training, seminars, retreats, multi-day workshops, etc. And my guest this morning is Tom Allen with Opango out of Dallas, Texas. Thank you so much for joining me.
Well, it's great to be here.
We're so excited that technology worked today.
Well, it is exciting and then a bit of a challenge also, but hey, that is what it is. We didn't have things like this even just a few months ago. So, all things considered, I'm happy.
You're very happy. And
Yeah.
I have to give you the kudos in terms of tell the audience why you're wearing the headphones that you're wearing and what kind of aircraft do you fly?
Well, I fly a Beechcraft G33. And I have this headset on because, I thought we would just kind of fly away here. And I thought I would just use this as a prop to show everybody how much flying it is and how much fun it is. But I don't know, my really sort of good headset is still on the way. So I have to wear this thing here from up at the 50s or something like that.
And when you were living out in the Boston area, where was your favorite place to fly?
Oh, without question, either Nantucket Island or Martha's Vineyard. And primarily because it's not that far out, only about 20 miles out in the ocean, but they're both really beautiful fly up. And the other thing is I could be there in 20 minutes in my airplane, where if you wanted to go there, you'd have to wait 2 hours on the ferry and a 2-hour ferry ride out. And now you've got 8 hours of travel time just to be there. So I could go out there for lunch. And so, or like the other one, actually is lesser known, but it's really a lot more beautiful is Block Island. Okay. It's between Long Island and Rhode Island, and it's like flying into a 1940s movie or something. They got the windmill, They got the rolling grass and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, wow.
And when you meet the people there, you realize if you picked them up and dropped them in Dallas, Texas or something, they'd have a sensory overload. They just wouldn't, it's such a peaceful. Wow. So anyway, I really like the islands quite a bit. And
very cool.
It's very cool. A lot of fun living up there like that.
Perfect. So to the viewers, one of our goals for Tom Allen is if he has a good enough internet connection at the airport, we want him to do his next live interview from the cockpit of his airplane. I just want to put that out there. I'm planting the seeds, hoping that it actually comes true. And today, from the comfort of his home office, we're going to be talking about developing the organization. And he let me know that this is a great talk for entrepreneurs. Why is that?
Well, most people want to start a company, but, and they've got a great idea and they've got a great product. But at the end of the day, the heavy lifting is putting the organization together and letting it grow and turn it into something that you can either sell or go public with. And truthfully, most entrepreneurs I know, it's just not part of what they're thinking about. They're so excited about their product that they can't think about this part of it. And whether they like it or not, investors and customers like to think that you have an organization they can work with and somebody will answer the phone and you'll be there. They don't want to think that you're just going to be gone, buy something today, gone tomorrow kind of deal. So
okay.
That's why they ought to pay attention to it.
So we're talking about 3 kinds of companies.
Yeah. So if you take any company, they kind of have 3 things that they've got to do. One is they got to have a product. They have to have some way of interfacing and talking to their customers, and they've got to be somewhat operationally efficient. They've got to be able to run the business with the revenue they've got coming in. But as it turns out, what companies really need to do is they need to figure out which one of these they're going to focus on as their strength. So if you're a product company, even though you have good customer service and you're sort of operationally, economically efficient at some level, your main focus in life is to have the best product. If you're a customer intimate company, then your differentiating factor is you have a reasonable product, but you really differentiate yourself on being very close to your customers. They have a way of contacting you, you service them, everything is great. If you're operationally efficient, what that means is you're kind of the least cost in the marketplace. Somebody comes to you because they want the cheapest, spend the least amount of money. So you have a reasonable product, you have reasonable customer service, but the bottom line is you're the probably the cheapest that anybody can deal with. So the way to think about this is like this. If you're a product company and your salesperson walks in and says, hey, I'm going to close this really big deal out here. All we got to do is add about 3 features to the product and we can have that deal. And you're the product leader. You go, no, that's not what we do. You sell them what we have. We'll let them know what we're going to do to the product. And so you might actually say this salesperson is not for us. You take that same person in a customer intimate company, comes in and goes, hey, I went out here and sold this. All we got to do is do about 3 or 4 new features to the product. And they get a ticker tape parade because they've sold a deal, because the company's organized like that. Now, you take, I've not personally been around what I call operational efficient, but you look at computers like PCs, like you're using one right now, so am I. When those things first came out, you went to a really nice computer store, talked to a salesperson, and they sell you one. You paid thousands of dollars for them. Well, all of a sudden, Dell Computer comes along, and they decide, you know what? I can get you a computer in your hands. You just got to call us and order it over the phone, and now I order it over the internet. So they went for operational efficiency. Mm-hmm. The reason that I bring this up as a really critical issue in putting your company together when you first start out is this. Every person I've ever been around, once they hear this story, they go, oh, I want to be the product leader. But then they act like customer intimacy. And what happens is it gets everybody confused in the company. So like, for instance, if you tell your company we're a product leader, but you're acting customer intimate, then what happens is your salespeople come in with the deals that have some, and the engineering department gets mad because they're like, why can't you sell what we've got? What are you doing? And it just creates all this turmoil. So my point is this. Understand this and decide at some point what you want to be, and think about the end with the end in mind. Okay, out there someday, I'm going to be in the market. I'm going to sell this company. I need to organize around this because this is what we are. So in the market today, Apple is clearly a product leader. You go to Apple, you get what they got. If you go to Home Depot over here, they will trip all over themselves taking care of correcting this pencil that they sold you for 2 cents. I mean, they're all about you as the customer. And a lot of other things like, grocery stores and stuff like that. A lot of those are, it's low margins. It's cheap. It kind of is what it is. So my point really in bringing this whole thing up is you're going to start a company, understand there's kind of 3 kinds of companies, figure out what you want to be, organize and hire people around that for your best chances of being successful. Okay. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm.
You just put a lot of people into turmoil right now.
I know. Well,
they're like, Opango.inc. Opangoinc.com, you guys. Tom Allen.
Well, it's so frustrating to me, having been in a few of these companies, because what happens is that, if you're running an engineering department, you're told you're a product company,
right?
Then you organize like that.
Ooh.
Sales walks in with a deal, and everybody's just mad.
Right.
And so that kind of goes into how you're going to grow your organization, because truthfully, it kind of moving into these other topics here is that if everybody's mad, you're siphoning energy out of your company.
Right.
And if your competitors are not mad, but they're organized and they're aligned on goals and everything, then all of a sudden they're just running circles around you in the marketplace.
So it's important for a company to decide this early on as quickly as possible, because the longer that you get into your business, it's harder to make those foundational level adjustments. Yes,
right. It's exactly right. And it's the people you hire too. I mean, if you just think about it, what salesperson wants to go out and say no to something just because the customer wants a couple extra things?
Right.
And so it's all goes to, you got to start out with this, and then I think you got to be dedicated to it. Mm-hmm. And the reason I'm bringing this up is a lot of people aren't. Right. So in the employee meeting, it's, we're a product company. This is what we do. But in the day-to-day operations, they're customer intimate, or they try to be, the cheapest guy on the block. Especially when you're early, there's a lot of price pressure, and so people go in and go, oh, okay, well, I got price pressure here. I'll just go ahead and lower my prices. And next thing you know, they're trying to run this company that is in theory, a product company, but running it on the cheap. And those
Right.
things just don't, those things create a lot of problems that I think most people don't really even understand what all the problems are that they're having.
Well, something that you just raised was really important, where you said, decide what kind of company you want to be and then hire around it. So it's also very important to communicate to those who are hiring. We are a product-based company.
Right.
We are a customer-focused company. We are a cheap company. It's
Right.
like it's really important that those themes transcend throughout the entire organization. And
Right.
if you're hiring, an external recruiter or an internal recruiter, being able to
Right.
say, this is the definition of a product-focused company, and
Right.
if they score on this level, they may be the right person for us, and they may
Right.
not be.
That's, and you're so right about that. And what happens is, the reason that this is a hot button for me is every company I've been with has these offsite meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And you bring in the consultant, you pay lots of money, you spend 3 days with this consultant, and
Right.
what you are is you're a customer intimate company, but every person on the senior management team will go, well, I want to be a product leader because it sounds cooler. I mean, what do you want to be? I mean, you know what I mean? You want to be, everybody wants to be the best they are in the industry. But then what happens is it just creates this schism where the organization is not aligned on how it's doing this business. And that's what I think surprises me. And so I tell this story, and I guarantee you, most of the companies that hear this will go back and get their management team together, and they'll all decide they want to be a product leader when they're not.
Wow.
And then somebody like me walks in, and you can tell within
ruins your life.
you can tell in under an hour.
Okay.
I guarantee you that they're completely misaligned on this issue.
Okay.
And you just have to ask a couple of questions. And the thing is, everybody knows it. So it's like, so I don't know. It's kind of bizarre, but it kind of is what it is. So that's one of my big deals is.
So that level of awareness is where Opango really helps clients, which is, what kind of company are you? You've been part of 8 startups. Yeah. So it is also defining not only that, but how do we create the entire enchilada, if you will, around who are we? And I don't think a lot of people really think about it. They might think about, well, this is what we're going to offer, but then they're tugged. We can't be all things to all people.
You can't.
So you have to decide, where's your focus, and are you going to excel at your focus?
And so you take that issue right there. Let's say you're a customer intimate company, and that's what Opango is. That's what we are, and that's the way we run our business. Sometimes people ask us to do things that are not part of our core business and not part of of where we're going. And you know what? We might have to say no to that.
Right.
Remember, just because you're down here in core competency doesn't mean that you don't have good product.
Right.
You've got to be along all of these trajectories to be in business. So, but what I think is that most startups are really what I'd call customer intimacy companies.
Okay.
And so what happens is, if you accept that, then what I suggest to people is, you get your basic product into the market because you believe in it, but your number one goal is to get to the voice of the customer, get customers on board, get close to them, figure out what it is that they need and want, and modify your product around listening to your customers in your marketplace.
Right.
So that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. How about that?
All right. So now he's gonna topple your world even more. He's gonna talk about hiring an organization.
Right.
So the first point is letting go, plan a vacation.
So you got to think about, you start your company, think about where you want it to be. And at one point, you're probably going to want it to be acquired by somebody. And I think this is surprising. So the acquiring company walks in and hey, how you doing? It's great. So where'd you go on vacation last? And the entrepreneur goes, vacation? I can't be on vacation. I can't work, and I can't leave this place. And right then they just devalued their company, because their company can't run without them. So what happens is every day that I think that your company is growing, you got to be thinking about hiring people and letting go of things that you do, so that one day you can go on vacation and your company runs just as well with you gone as it does with you there. And I know that may be a little dissatisfying to think that you're just going to sit there and look out the window and you're everybody's working and you're kind of like, looking around. But
Oh my gosh.
if you can do that and your company can operate well without you, now what happens is it has more value in the marketplace.
Okay.
When you go to sell it, and I can honestly, a lot of family-owned businesses get in trouble with stuff like this because whoever started it, dad or granddad or somebody, that they're so involved in it, they are the company.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are the company,
mm-hmm.
then it's not that it doesn't have any value. It's just that it's not worth as much as it would be as if you had it organized such that it would operate without you. So you're running it. I mean, you set goals and objectives and some of the vision and stuff like that. But when somebody comes in and buys it and they thank you for your time and they let you go, they're only going to do that if the company is well constructed so it can run. So that's why I say plan a vacation. And oddly, if you're talking to people who do acquisitions, that's the trick question. They walk in with, "Oh, hi, hey Kim, how are you doing? Oh, when's the last time you took a vacation?" And you roll your eyes. I can't take a vacation. Boom, you just knocked off maybe half the value of your company.
Wow.
I know.
Good to know. Good thing I could say last month.
Last month, exactly right. So it's now, and that's not to say when you first start, you can't do that on day one, but you got to it goes back to this catchphrase, start with the end in mind.
Right.
And hire people that are confident in, that can run this thing. Right. And let go of everything that you possibly can. And so, and unfortunately, a lot of people can't do that, but that's kind of is what it is.
I understand. So the power of choice, hire top down.
Now, I got to tell you, everybody doesn't agree with me about this, but here's the way, what I think and I see happen. You start a company and you start hiring people. When you hire somebody, they make a choice. They choose you and you choose them, and that power of that choice creates a working environment so that you can be the most productive. If one day you decide to hire somebody over them, what happens is the person that they now report to did not choose them. And in most companies, especially when you see them say replace the CEO, the next thing that CEO does go, "Oh, well, I want my own team." Mm-hmm. So they bring in their own VPs. So all the VPs get fired. Mm-hmm. Starts with the CEO got fired, VPs get fired, and guess what they want to do? They want to bring in their own team. Yep. And so this turmoil that goes on there actually is counterproductive to the health of the company. What's a much better strategy, in my opinion, is you're small and when you bring somebody in and you're going to hire them, is think about envisioning them growing with the company so that people come in underneath them. And now they might not know that they're capable of doing that. And, frankly, maybe they're not. But you've got to think like that. Think about, okay, I'm going to hire this person as my junior salesperson, but I can see that I'm going to grow sales underneath them, let them make choices. I am telling you that I don't even see this written anywhere, but in my experience, that power of you choosing someone and them choosing you will carry you a long ways. And in fact, I was just talking to a consultant friend of mine yesterday who actually focuses on senior management teams. And what he said he's found is that making changes in senior management is much more disruptive to the company than just coaching them or training them to be what it is you need them to be. So,
because the ripple effect happens at a deeper level. Yeah. And it may not necessarily be because, they're all that in a bag of chips, but it is it's their reach within the company, which is, oh, shoot. And, it could be even, let's say a middle manager had networked with this, executive vice president, and that person had bought into their values and what they were communicating and, the vision that they had for, let's say, a particular department. And all of a sudden that EVP is gone. Then these people are just like, oh, shoot, now we're going to be sucked into the black hole with everybody else.
Right. it's an amazing. It's just the disruption that it takes. And the other thing that's a little bit of a tangential subject is, let's say you're an entrepreneur and you want to start your own business, but you're really a technical genius visionary, but you're not really a business operator. So
Right.
your investors say, hey, this is great. We need to hire a CEO. Well, that sounds good on paper. It really does. And I think maybe you should do that. But what I've seen a lot of times is the CEO comes in and the first thing they want to do is to get control of the company. And to get control of the company, they want to push the founder out.
Yep.
And so you're agreeing with me, aren't you? So
I've seen it happen.
yeah.
I mean, it's just, I don't know if it's human nature or if that's it, or I don't know what it is, but I've seen it happen, and it's almost like a divorce.
It is, right.
I mean, just when you push people out like that and there's no thought or consideration to, what have the individuals been doing,
Right.
it's just gets really, really nasty.
And the thing is, so let's say that, so how long does that all take? So now your company's in disarray for a year, 2 years, until it all sort of set, or if it ever settles out.
Yeah, if it ever settles down, because you've got the ripple effects
Right.
of, you call it the old blood, like, right? Or
Right.
these are the people from the old company. Well, that could be generations of people. And even as we look at what baby boomers to millennials, you've got values that are still in the workplace from who knows when.
Right. Yeah,
and then you've got new values that are coming in.
Right.
So there's turmoil anyway.
Right. So
let alone a senior management shift.
So anyway, I've come to this point of view through having done this a few times, that I will do everything I can to start out, hire the top people, let them hire their people, and that way the organization will grow in a healthier way, I claim. And it goes down to this choice is so powerful. So let's say you hire a VP. The person that they interviewed with first and hired, they're going to have a more powerful bond than you as the CEO will ever have with them.
Right.
It's the first person they come in and bond with in the company.
Right.
So if you're the CEO and you don't like that all the engineers like the VP of engineering, what do? You fire your VP of engineering. Yeah, I show them. and now all the engineers are mad. You bring in a new VP of engineering, and this new VP goes, oh, well, you know what? I got these 50 engineers out here that I've worked with, and so I want to bring them in.
Yeah. It's called the NFL.
NFL, yes, NFL. NFL is a perfect example.
Because it's happening right now.
Right. Yes, it happens all the time. The NFL is an interesting thing because of that. If you watch them, they're always firing the head coach, and then what does the head coach do? They fire all the assistant coaches, and I don't know. It's just a zoo.
I mean, from the quarterback coaches, and then the team, and then it's just things get dismantled every season. Like in Denver, obviously with Peyton Manning retiring, that team, that Super Bowl team, they're going to look completely different when it comes to spring training or when it comes to August, right?
That's right.
Totally different team.
Right. So we'll see what they do next year. And they may be out of it for years, or they may, they may just be right back in it. I don't know.
Right. But hey, we're not the Dallas Cowboys, aren't we?
No. But that's a perfect example. Jerry Jones, I remember this. He thought he knew best, so he goes out and fires Jimmy Johnson, and look at it. It's not ever
been the same.
And they've churned those coaches, and they churned the players, but Jerry is so committed to that he's got it all figured out that he's going to keep doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
There you go.
Oh my gosh. So now we're going to get even meatier. Diverse teams get more done. First, before you start, what is your definition of a diverse team?
Well, it's like people like hiring people that are like themselves. The problem is that if you take your strengths and you hire people that are just like you, you're going to take your strength and you're going to maximize it into a weakness. So for instance, if let's say that you are highly visionary and unstructured and you just kind of wander through life, You need to hire somebody who's very structured and organized. Okay, but here's what happens is when they don't really appreciate each other's point of view. So they get into these arguments. So what you've got to do as a manager is realize that, and I mean, there's a lot of different kinds of diversity, but diversity in skill set, diversity in mindset, culturally diverse. If you have a diverse organization, what'll happen is they will argue with each other at first because everybody kind of thinks their way is the best way. But if you can get them to fully appreciate each other's point of view, you will get a lot more done. I absolutely guarantee it. So like, if you look out there and you need people that are very good, sort of what I'll call thinkers, they just sit around and think about stuff. They don't get much done, but they think about stuff. And then you get what I call the doers. Man, they get stuff done. They do not like each other for the most part. But once they learn to appreciate each other's point of view, what will happen is that you will suddenly you'll find that your products are better, and so you'll get what I call the right product done at the right time. But and there's a lot of things I think about when I think about this, but and some of them have gender bias and some don't. But I tell you this: if you look out at a room full of about 100 people in it, and you see men, women, and various cultures represented, and various mental thinking about how you get things done, you will get a lot more done than if you have everybody out there who is just like you. You won't get nothing done. I guarantee it. And the thing about this, you'll think you're getting a lot done, but you're not. So
it's called dysfunctionality.
Yes, right. One of the funniest things I've read, and I got to find this so I can send it to you, but you ever heard of Myers-Briggs?
Yeah.
Well, what somebody did one time is they got a whole room full of people and they divided it up amongst the 16 Myers-Briggs types. And they gave them the task of taking this kit and building a sailboat. That article is just enough to just kill you from laughing at how all but see, everybody on every team was the same Myers-Briggs type.
Oh my gosh.
So think about your J's, your structured people building a boat versus your P's, which is your unstructured people building a boat. But that's what happens.
What boat is the question?
If you take an organization and you use Myers-Briggs, for instance, you need all of those 16 types represented in order to be the most effective that you can possibly be.
Okay.
And you've got to think about that as being a really positive thing.
Right.
And once you think about that as a positive thing and make it your mission,
right,
then all of a sudden, a lot of other things will just fall in place.
Because when you get those 16 personality types all together in a room, I mean, it's very much like Chris Rock says, you got to evaluate the level of crazy, because the level of crazy, it is about to go through the roof. And I think that the only way people start to respect each other is they have to go through the fire with each other. They've got to go through a pretty hellacious time.
Yeah,
maybe it's a project where you're like, I'm about to wring your neck. But if they can get through the project and then see, and then they have a different perspective of, man, Tom Allen kicked my butt every day for 90 days, but I'm still standing.
That's right. See, there's a whole, we could talk about this subject probably all day, but so let's say you kind of are who you are. Well, the people that you hire that are like you are going to want to come to you and go, oh, we're just alike. So we got to, they're not good. And you got to disappoint them.
Like the speeches.
Yeah, well, you got to disappoint them and go, well, look, I mean, they're capable and competent too. And you got to be above all this nonsense, because they're going to fight with each other about and try to the thing that just kills me, and I don't know exactly where the number is when it starts, but if you have about 100 people working for you, more than just a few of them are going to spend overtime trying to disenfranchise the other ones.
Gosh.
Because they want to be close, right? And so if you go back all the way back to the beginning of, I want a diverse team of people because I want them to work in a healthy, productive way. Now you have to support people that are totally different from you.
Right. Right.
Because if you don't, they won't be productive.
And the ship goes down.
Yeah. and the ship goes down. That's right.
Yeah.
And the people that are just like you will do everything in the world to try to get you to see how bad they are or something like that. It's a jungle.
It is. It's a
So
jungle. It's called corporate America.
it is corporate America. And so the person at the top in the corner office who's growing this organization has to think about this. I'm good at these things. I'm not good at those things. I'm going to hire people who are good at that. I recognize they're going to think less of me because I'm not good at what they're good at. That's the other thing they do, is they come in and go, I'm really good at this and you're not, and you go, yeah, but I was smart enough to hire you. So I guess maybe I am good at it.
So there's the one up already.
I mean, it's like that. So, and I agree, it creates some conflict. It does. But any healthy organization has a certain sort of a noise level in it. It's not a brawl, absolutely, but it's not. Right. If you look into your organization, everybody's like getting along and it's kumbaya every day.
I would run away.
I would run away. Yeah.
Because they're either not willing to face the truth or they have such a lack of awareness that things seem to be running really, really well. Right. And I think that there is a healthy level of conflict. I mean, it's almost like within a family, if you can't agree to disagree and not throw each other under the bus, then you've got a really good working relationship. Because you can say, you know what, I don't agree with everything he says, but he really knows what he's talking about. So I kind of have to take the back seat on this one and write it out. And, that's when you become a team player rather than the leader, right? Or the captain.
Yeah. So, and it's another part of that is this. You've got to remain calm when somebody walks in and gives you the most unbelievable bad news ever. Because if you just jump on them, like, how dare you, then suddenly you shut them down. You don't even know what's going on in your own organization now because you couldn't control your own emotional stuff.
Right.
And if you got 3 or 4 of them in a room and one of them is different from you and they say something like that and the other ones all want to pounce, you've got to be the one that goes, maybe they've got a point there.
Well, and this goes back to an interview that I did with Julie Chance and she said, oftentimes when somebody has been thinking about, an issue or a problem and they take it to the staff, they don't give the staff or the recipients appropriate amount of time to process, to react, whether it's positive or negative. They expect an instant implementation, which isn't fair to the people who are receiving the information. They have to go through their natural reaction process, because then they might say, I understand what you're saying. Let me just process the information, because that doer might be thinking, oh my gosh, that one thing actually now adds 20 steps to what I was supposed to be doing. And they start analyzing the process and how it affects them. So,
So you take Julie Chance, I've heard her speak before, and she'll tell you people that cooperate get more done than people that don't cooperate. And that's just absolutely true.
Yeah.
So, but people at work, oftentimes they just like to fight things out.
They like to fight it out. And I got to do a shout out. So Gary Lear, who is a speaker of ours in Macon, Georgia, who I did that intro for you for.
Yeah.
He has just signed on to Blab. So hi, and now he's gone.
Oh, is he gone? He left us?
I think he popped on and then he probably saw us and was like, whatever, those two.
Whatever, those
two.
Okay.
But so now we're going to move into cooperation and productivity. And you talked a little bit about it. Julie has worked in, hospital systems in the healthcare, which we know is wrought with chaos. For you, how do you, teach or talk about cooperation and productivity?
Well, my basic message is this: if you study it and read about it, is that an organization where people cooperate can get up to about 70% efficiency. You lose about 30% in overhead and everything else. People that don't cooperate, you get about 30% efficiency. Now, so if you think about 2 organizations, one's at 70, one's at 30, one of them is performing better financially. Mm-hmm. And the other one thing is they're getting more done than the people that are not cooperating. So they can actually can essentially run circles around you in the marketplace. Mm-hmm. So when I look out at an organization, the thing I think about, are they working together well? Are they sharing information?
Mm-hmm.
Does somebody have a nugget of information that everybody needs to know? And did they go out and make sure that everybody knows?
Mm-hmm.
And as hard as this is for people to do sometimes, if you have somebody in your organization who holds on to information,
right,
because they think that means they have power,
right,
you have to fire them.
right. Yep.
Now, I'm not saying you don't explain it to them first. You do. But once you clearly explain to them that they've got to let go of everything and cooperate with people, then what happens, if they do that, then that's great. But if they don't, then they have to go.
Mm-hmm.
And so anytime, I'll give you a perfect example. When you're sitting on a board, let's say you're a VP team and you have a board meeting. Imagine this. I'm driving away from the board meeting with the CEO, and the board just gave us some instructions. When the CEO looks at me and says, "We're not doing that." Well, so what does cooperation look like? Cooperation looks like, I don't think that's something we want to do. I'm going to get back with the chairman of the board and discuss this with them. But what a lot of people, I think, do, and this is what I call non-cooperation, is they just, yeah, sure, I'll be glad to take care of that, and they just don't. And so cooperation looks like, are people communicating? Are they sharing information? I have a customer who the three principals can see each other from their desk.
Okay.
If I want all three of them to know something,
you stand in the middle.
I send them all an email, or I call all of them, because I don't know what it is. So if you look out into an organization and you're in meetings and stuff, and you find that people kind of know what's going on, and they're not surprised by stuff,
right?
They're cooperating. If they're not,
okay,
then they're not.
Yeah.
Now, the ones that I have the most trouble with is you probably heard of peacemakers.
Uh-huh.
Peacemakers, you go into your peacemaker and you go, "Hey, I need you to accomplish these three things today," and they go, "Oh yeah, I'll get right on that." But and they know they're not going to. They're just not. I have no trouble with those, because they're telling me they're going to do it, so they're not cooperating. So it's probably kind of a vague thing, but it starts with, you got to set the tone with everybody that, look, we have to cooperate. And when you have people that aren't cooperating, you call them into your office and go, "You know what? I know you two people hate each other. I got that, but you're going to work together in a positive and productive way. And if they don't, then they got to go."
Or Tom Allen's going to come after you with a bat.
Well, I am very serious about it, because if you're responsible for 10 people, you're responsible for 11 people's worth of output.
Right.
So if I'm responsible for 100 or 150, I can't have them out there going, "Oh, well, I'm not.
Right.
I'm not going to help them."
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I will call you on the carpet.
So we're going to wrap up with role ambiguity creates chaos.
This is a thing that happens all the time in companies. They're growing, and they hire somebody and they give them virtually no idea about what their job responsibilities are.
Oh my gosh.
So what happens is they make decisions. They get called on the carpet. "How dare you make that decision without coming to me?" And they end up with this thing where, do I have responsibility or I don't have responsibility? And so they end up with this thing where nobody knows, and you just end up with chaos all over the place, because nobody has a clear idea about what is their job and their job responsibilities, and so chaos ensues.
Right.
And then what happens is somebody like me comes in, and I sit there and they go, "I don't know what my job is. I don't even know." And it all goes back to, you got a room full of people, you got to be productive. Everybody needs to know what their job is, what their job is not. And if you can imagine a room full of people sitting in there and nobody knows what their job is, and you're not there, go back to, you can't go on vacation.
Correct.
Now, the best company I've ever worked with that has this down is Hewlett Packard.
Okay.
Now, I don't know about Hewlett Packard, all the other stuff, but I can tell you this. If you go, I used to be their corporate sponsor when I was in Interface. You go to a city, they've flown in 30 people from around the world, and they will operate in that room as if they've known each other since the day they were born.
Wow.
They know their jobs, they know what they're supposed to do, and they share information. And I'm like,
an alternative universe is what it's called.
Exactly. It's like, what? Most of the time, there's this squabble about who's going to do what, or they're making game time decisions about, oh, well, you go take care of that. And they go, well, normally I don't do that. Well, you're doing it now. It's just. But I went into an organization one time at 70 engineers, and I'm just kind of one. I want to know everybody. I do. So I walk around and I go, well, so I'm Tom Allen, and you're so and so. Yeah, yeah. So who do you report to? Well, I'm not really sure. You're not sure? They don't. They got managers and they got people, and nobody knows who they report to. So I don't know. Don't get me started on this.
So before Tom,
yes,
his blood pressure goes up, where can people get in touch with you?
Well, they can go to our website, opango.com, and we of course have all our contact information there, and I'd be glad to visit with you or talk to you. Most of the time, our company's core business is e-learning and instructional design work, but what happens is all the time as we get into we're there to help them run their company and be the most value add that we can be. And so we end up talking about this kind of stuff all the time.
Okay.
And sometimes we end up with an interesting consulting engagement as a result of it. So there you go.
Perfect. If you want to book Tom for a professional speaking engagement, please contact me, Kim Tracy, through maxwelljames.net. Thank you so much for being with me here today.
Yes, that's right. Call Kim. That's the best way to get anything done.
Call Kim. That's the best way to get a hold of Tom.
See, had a little ambiguity there. See, there, right.
Exactly. We have to be clear.
Call Kim Tracy.
Yeah. Call Kim Tracy if you want to get hold of Tom Allen. Thank you so much for being with me today.
Oh, all right. Well, glad to have been here, and looking forward to talking to you again.
Absolutely. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.